an introduction, a story, and a song. Dear Evan Hansen, today is going to be a good day, and here's why. Because today you are going to be yourself, and that is enough. This is my favorite line from the hot new Tony Award-winning musical, Dear Evan Hansen. And if you're wondering why Phil Hayden is sitting at the piano right this very moment, is because in just a few minutes, he's going to sing a song from that musical. The name of the song is You Will Be Found. And that is the theme of our message today. Thank you, Phil. Being found sort of implies being lost, and it may come as no surprise to you that my parents had their hands full with me when I was a child. I wasn't a bad kid. I was just a tiny bit lost. Fortunately, I had two saintly, patient, hard-praying parents. And my mom said to me much later in life, Frank, I love you, honey, but you just about wore us out. I am told, though I have no recollection, that at the dinner table one night, and just for the record, my mom is a wonderful cook, and every night they would say, clean your plate, eat your vegetables so that you grow up big and strong. And one night, according to my parents, when she served us corned beef and cabbage, I said, Mom, if you don't start serving us kids some better food, I'm going to start growing down. My mother still reminds me of that today. One of the most vivid memories I have of my parents is that every single night they would say their prayers. Our house was such that the hallway went right down into their bedroom door, and every single night that I can remember, they were on their knees. Mom was on her side of the bed. Her hands were folded. Dad was on his side of the bed. His hands were folded. And they prayed quietly, but they prayed often. And they prayed long. And it wasn't until I became a parent myself that I realized that a lot of those prayers were directed at me. Sometimes Mom and Dad would be holding hands in the middle. And that usually meant something either really bad was going on or something really good had happened. And that much I understood, even though I often had no clue what was going on. Perhaps it's in our role as parents that we best understand the necessity and the power of prayer. When I was 12 years old, my brother Blair and I and our friend Buddy Purnell went to the beach for the day. We went to Atlantic Beach. It was mid-September. Buddy's father was putting some carpet in their beachfront cottage, and we ended up spending most of the day unsupervised on the beach. Unsupervised. 3 boys on the beach. Because we were all on the same baseball team, we spent most of the day playing baseball games. We threw the ball a bunch. We played a game called Pepper. I don't know if any of y'all remember Pepper. It was just hitting a little bit, working on catching, throwing, hand-eye coordination. We played a game called Pickle. I don't know if any of y'all remember pickle. Maybe they call it monkey in the middle these days. And we ended the day with the rousing game of roll-a-bat. Does anybody here remember the game roll-a-bat? Please, thank you so much. I was starting to worry. It's a great game, and you can call relay, and the object has become the hitter. But long story short, we spent several hours playing on the beach. We almost got hot. We did get sandy, and towards the end of the day, we decided to go in the water. Now, the wind was blowing. It was a little bit chilly, but the water was still warm, and it felt really good. There was a side breeze blowing, and the water was washing us down. So we'd get in the water, play. We'd wash way down the beach. We'd get out, run back up past Buddy's cottage, and get back in. The waves weren't that big, but it was choppy. But we were staying together, and we were safe. At one point, I realized I got in just a little deep. I turned around to ask my brother for help. Somehow he and Buddy were on the beach, and they were sprinting upwind past the cottage. I was by myself. I got in almost over my head, and I had to do that little tiptoe bobbing thing. We've all done it. But every time my feet got near the sand, they were swept out from under me. I was in a riptide. And the number one rule in being caught in a riptide is know what a riptide is. And I didn't know that. I think the number 2 rule, I broke that as well, is don't be by yourself. I'll throw my brother and Buddy under the bus on that one. The 3rd rule is don't panic. I didn't do so well. And the 4th rule is don't try to swim straight to shore. I broke that as well. Long story short, I was in over my head. I couldn't stand up. I wore my arms out fighting the riptide. And I panicked. I was by myself, and for the first time in my life, I thought that I might die. I cried out for help. My brother and Buddy were way down the beach. They didn't hear me. I looked around, and in those days after Labor Day, nobody went to the beach. I was all alone. But when I cried for help, God heard me. Within 5 seconds, a surfboard floated right in front of me. I could say I have no idea where it came from, but I think I know. I grabbed that surfboard for dear life. I put my arms over it, and I paddled over the riptide, and I got to shore. I threw the surfboard up on the beach above the wave line, and I turned to look for the owner of the board. I wanted to thank them. There was nobody around. Sometimes I wonder who owned that surfboard. I hoped and I prayed that nobody got injured so that my life would be saved. Later in life, I came to realize most surfers are excellent swimmers, and they all know what a riptide is. We had to leave. It was time to head back to Raleigh. And the last thing I did was look out on the beach, and the surfboard was still there. When I cried out for help that day, God heard me. And it was one of those life-changing moments. When I got home that night, I told my parents what happened. And they did what they always did. They hugged me. They told me they loved me and that they were glad that I was okay. And then, as only a mother can do, my mom looked at me and said, "Brush your teeth and go to bed." After I brushed my teeth, I looked down the hallway. And my parents were on their knees. And they were saying their prayers. And they were holding hands. Only this time I knew why. They were thanking God. Sometimes things happen that totally change our perspective on life. I came away from this, what I call the miracle of the surfboard, really grateful to be alive and thankful to have people in my life that love me. People that saw the best in me. People who prayed for me. God heard my cry for help that day. God sent me the surfboard. And God saved me when I could not save myself. Reflecting back on that, I think I slowly began to understand the wisdom that's in the scriptures that Pastor Debbie read today. The things that we cling to as people of faith. There's no place that we can go that God cannot reach us. There's nothing that we can ever do that'll separate us from the love of God. That God is quite literally in the business of saving lives. And how we choose to live our lives, that is our best opportunity to say thank you to God. God's new commandment, that we love one another, that we see Christ in each other, and that we treat each other as totally equal children of God. That is radically transformative. As the high schoolers so eloquently said on Youth Sunday this past year, Ubuntu. I am because we are. God gifts us all with a village of teachers, Sunday school teachers, confirmation leaders, of pastors, of